Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of Train to Busan from 2016. Now, having seen Parasite on the big screen recently, I thought it was high time I checked out this other highly regarded South Korean movie. IMDb calls it an action horror thriller, but in many ways this film takes the form of a classic disaster movie. While a zombie virus breaks out in South Korea, passengers struggle to survive on the train from Seoul to Busan. So the high concept is relatively simple. This was directed by Sang-ho Yeon, and I was surprised to find out that prior to this he'd only directed animated films, and this was his first foray into live action, because you would never have known. He actually made a prequel animation called Seoul Station, which came out a month after this movie. Sang-ho Yeon also co-wrote the movie with Joo-Suk Park. The film stars Yoo Gong, Yoo Hyung, Dong-seok Ma, Soo-an Kim, I-sung Kim, Woo-sik Choi, who I also saw recently in Parasite, and So-hee, who was formerly a K-pop star, I believe. So this film starts quietly, as you'd expect, as you get to know two of the main characters, Sik-woo, played by Yoo Gong, and his daughter Soo-an, played by Soo-an Kim. She is desperate to be reunited with her mother in Busan, and she's too young to travel on the train, so he goes with her, despite the fact that he tends to be more tied up with his work than being a parent. That's the emotional core of this movie, and as you might expect, we start to meet more characters on the train and get our first impressions of them just in time for the zombie outbreak to start. What I loved about this film was the fact that the stakes just kept on getting higher and higher. The threat constantly increases, and you almost feel like the film is about to end multiple times just before they hit you with another surprise. And maybe if it was a Hollywood movie, maybe that's how the film would have finished, but it just keeps on going. In the classic disaster movie way, you get to find out more about the people and see who they really are when they're faced with adversity or they have to protect a loved one. The person you thought was a coward wasn't, the first you thought was selfish wasn't, the first you thought was caring was actually selfish, and all those kind of things come into play. The drama, as I'm describing, is excellent, and the acting in Train to Busan is superb. Soo-an Kim, who I think was only about 10 when this film was made, gives one of the best child performances I've ever seen on screen, and she's surrounded by a cast who really know how to sell their internal dilemmas very well. But this film still moves at one heck of a pace. Action-wise, the kinetic way that the zombies move and how they almost contort their bodies is both clever and terrifying. And in the scenes where they're off the train, as the zombies are fast and plentiful, and the action scenes are both fluid and also heart-stopping. The way that the various passengers find ways to fight them off, how they do it, gives the film an excellent sense of balance between the emotional, character-driven scenes, the out-and-out horror, and these exhilarating fights and battles when people are grabbing shields and baseball bats and doing anything they can to stay alive. Now, I really wish I got into this film sooner, and I wholeheartedly recommend it. It does something very different with the zombie genre, and it's well worth a look. I did struggle a little bit with the subtitles more than on a straight drama, but that was only because sometimes there's so much happening on screen, it's hard to keep going and catch all of the dialogue. The one good thing about that, I guess, is it gives me a good excuse to watch it again, which I do plan to do. So the best action movies have a real heart to them, not just some cleverly choreographed action sequences. And this film had more soul than most Hollywood franchises could ever manage. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend you checking it out. Despite the fact it leans on the traditions of disaster films, the unique way it was approached and films and just the way it was pulled together gives you something completely fresh. Train to Busan packs a massive emotional punch too. So, Train to Busan I'd say it's almost a 5-bag movie, but I'm going to give Train to Busan 4 bags of action. Have you seen Train to Busan? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Feel free to comment below or get in touch with us via email, Facebook or on Twitter. We have new episodes coming out weekly alongside our full-length podcast with my co-host. And don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel.